So a lot of you thought my promise.withResolvers example was stupid. A couple of you liked it, but here's 4 more ways that you can use the new withResolvers method in the browser. So first, let's explain promise.withResolvers, brand new method. It's in all the browsers already, and it allows you to access the resolve and the reject methods outside of the promise scope. Why is that handy? Well, when you're working with promises, you generally have to either pass your work into the promise to be able to resolve it, or you end up doing something like this where you declare some variables outside of the scope, and then inside of the scope, you actually go ahead and update. The new withResolvers method gives us the reject and resolve methods alongside the promise so that you can have them outside of the actual promise. Why would that be useful? So let's take a look at an example here. I have this wait function I write all the time, right? What you need to do from this function is you return a promise, and then inside of it, you set a timeout that it resolves after however many milliseconds you want. Well, now you don't need to have the callback or the promise constructor. You simply just use promise.withResolvers here, and then you return an object that has the promise, the resolve, and the reject inside of it. At the very least, it's one less callback, one less set of curly brackets to keep track of. But the real power comes when you want to do something like this. If you want to be able to pass the resolve and reject methods into something else, if you want to have access to them so you can pass them into something else, you can simply just run with resolvers, and that gives you an object. You can then go ahead and listen for the then and the catch on side of it, or you can use async await. But if you want to be able to pass in the resolve and reject methods into, like, let's say a function or a component, you can do so very easily, and then go ahead and hook it up to a click button. Next example I have here is when you're working with streams. This is really popular. So streams are where you are getting data in chunks, and you're sort of collecting them as they are coming in, because either something like ChatGPT, you're getting the results as it's being computed, or you're doing something like recording a webcam where you need to be processing the data as it's coming hot off the webcam. So here I have a little record webcam function, and we get the user's webcam. We create a media recorder, which allows us to record things like audio, video, and someone's screen. Then we create our promise and get the resolve and reject methods on it. We create a chunks blob to sort of keep all of the pieces of the video. In my case, I'm going to be grabbing them every 1 second. And then here I'm listening for when you get a chunk, you throw it into the chunks array. And when it's all done, I go ahead and resolve with the URL to the video. Otherwise, if there's an error with the recording, we pass it the reject method. Then you can go ahead and use it, something like this. You create a video element. You can simply just wait for the webcam to give you video, and then you set the video source there. So working with streaming, chunking APIs is super handy with this new promise with resolvers. Other ones, you can wait for a click really easily. Again, this is not something you couldn't do before. We've had this concept of deferreds for a long time, but now we have it native in the language. Big fan of this. It's in all the browsers. You can start using it today. If you do need to support something that doesn't have it, you can polyfill it in a couple lines of code.